This is Bluffside Crossing, a city that I abandoned for 847 days before sneaking into town to teach this neighborhood the virtues of respecting the topography. And after seeing just how respectful the topography the new residents are, I decided to do a 180 and turn my attention to the business community. And yeah, a truck might struggle right here a little bit. This is, oh dear, I'm not sure how the lumber isn't falling in the river. And oh boy, Philip's gonna get some beefy calves. Enjoy getting down to your boats, friends. I just can't. We're gonna come in here like a wrecking ball and completely rethink this strange little area. So in today's episode, we'll relocate this forestry industry to a place that actually makes sense and create a tourism district using the Hotels and Retreats DLC rather than these random repeating towers. And if you're gonna miss this strange little district, hit the like button. And if you're happy to see it gone, hit the like button for that too and let me know how you feel in the comments. Or if you're shy, drop the craziest emoji you can think of for the sake of engagement. Without any further ado, let's jump right in. If you've played Cities Skylines for any length of time, I'm guessing that you've built a neighborhood like this one. It had a purpose. It was supposed to be the forestry industry there because of its proximity to the water, but eventually I just started throwing things in here. Things that I wasn't sure of where they should go. Things like our water treatment plants and our recycling center, and eventually things like a major fire station, a hospital, a bunch of residential, commercial, high schools, a lot of stuff that shouldn't be here. The really troubling thing in this area is that we haven't respected the topography at all. In fact, it seems like we've completely ignored it, and as a result, we've got some things to deal with. So I want to completely reimagine this area. This is no longer going to be the home of the forestry industry. It'll be a modest residential neighborhood. And the reason for that is I just don't think that the transportation network in this area is really suitable for this type of industry. So we are going to eliminate this because we have to get rid of these. So we have this multimodal corridor that has basically every form of transportation in the city going down to this area. And this grade is anywhere between 20 and 30%. So it is completely unreasonable for trains, for trams. Reasonably, I don't think you'd want to bike on this. And for our freight network, it's nuts. So we are going to eliminate everything through here and eliminate everything through here. This is going to be very wrecking ball and sledgehammery, and it's what we have to do to make this place reasonable. So we've got to eliminate some of our modes of transportation. The easy one is the road. So I'm going to get rid of this. I am going to pause this just for a second because I want to see our traffic. We're at 73%. I'm guessing that this won't improve things. And then I want to convert this. So we'll just grab this 2-lane highway and upgrade the rest of what we have here. We use our arrange at line mode to get a nice angle around here. And because we're thinking about our topography and our slopes, let's slope this out. Network multi-tool to the rescue, 2.5% grade instead of the crazy stuff that we had. But we have a pretty unreasonable berm. So with anarchy on, I'm going to turn this into a bridge. And that is better. The second one that's easy to resolve is the multi-use path. We will get rid of this. This likely means that we need to beef up our cable car network. And then the two painful ones. We have the tram and the train, and I do want to show you the grades here. It's all over the board. And if we were to try to fix this, we're to carve right into the ground. So we need to eliminate this, but got some really unfortunate news. The target line is the train that operates on here, and it is the busiest train in the entire city. This pings back and forth in between our downtown area, our central station, this train station right here, and Target. So I am going to eliminate this, or at the bare minimum, maybe the right approach is actually to remove the stops by Target. Stop is gone. Everyone hates that. And then we'll reestablish the route here. And now that that's gone, we can get rid of all of these extra rail facilities that are no longer necessary. And that was very painful, very, very painful, but that's not nearly as painful as what we're about to do because I think our tram network is even more popular. We can see that the tram has 791 passengers, and I think all of those are on line 3 and 2. 2 is our most popular route. It goes basically from this area right here to the airport. Too steep, we've got to get rid of this. So reasonably, we've got over 1,000 passengers that we have to figure out what to do with. That will likely not be a today thing, but I want to keep that in the back of our mind. I think we'll go to about here and wholesale eliminate everything. You can see that, there's just 20 meters of change in between blocks, things that aren't very reasonable. The easiest way to do this is going to be to come in to move it. We are going to go into our marquee selection and only select buildings. And there we go. We have a completely blank canvas to work with. Our wrecking ball is working just fine. So I will get rid of most of the local roads through here. And then we'll try to get our arterials. We'll try to leave those where they were and maybe build upon what we had in the past as we reestablish this neighborhood over here. Wow, and there were roads built where roads should have never been built. And then this pedestrian facility is absolutely nutty. We will get rid of this as well. It doesn't make sense. We can convert this into a road that has pedestrian facilities. And to maintain the intent of what we were doing, we will add a pedestrian connection right here. This will at least get people from this road over into this little office park. While we're over here, let's also adjust the slopes here in the network multi-tool. There we go. That is a considerably better connection. And then we've got this little highway segment here. I'm just going to modify this as well. And now we have pedestrian facilities here too. I'm going to get rid of these other roundabouts that no longer serve a purpose. And now that we have this all converted to a 4-lane road, I did switch this to a 2U just so we have some continuity. I am going to adjust the heights here and gentle up some of these curves. And then we're going to force the terrain to respect us a bit here. And there we go. This gives us a solid foundation to start from. We do have some digging in through here. We're going to say that there's going to be some earthwork done to smooth this out a bit and create some more buildable lots. These would be valuable lots. We are on the river after all. And I think I'm going to attempt to use the slope terrain tool. I flattened out an area right here and another one right here. This should be slightly higher, so I should be able to slope to it. So that's just right mouse clicking at the highest point, going to the lowest point or the lower of the 2 points, beginning there. And then you get this nice, really nice, gentle slope in between the two. And then I just pulled this back a little ways from the hill to make things look a little bit more reasonable. So we'll come in with a fairly simple road, and it's really important to remember this is going to be functioning as an arterial. And with that being the case, we'll have a collector that meets up with this arterial maybe twice, and then our local roads will connect off that collector. There we go. This is the general layout here. So again, this is the collector. So we've got our local roads meeting up with that, the cul-de-sac bulbs. And then here, because I didn't want this to function as a collector, I have this terminating at an intersection no matter which side you enter. So that would help there. We are going to just follow our demand. And we had a variety of city services in this neighborhood, and I do think that we still need them. And there's a flat pad right here. So what we'll do is create a bit of a city service complex right here. So I'm going to basically take a step back and place everything that I think that we're going to need over here, beginning with our police station, and then a firehouse, a bit of parking for each of those. Then we will add our road maintenance facility that we removed. And I could see the wisdom of adding healthcare services over here as well. This isn't the greatest location for it, but I'm sure that you've seen something like this as well. Land is cheap and amply available, and as a result, we get some development over here of core city services. Now, for the rest of this area, there are cul-de-sacs. We will manually place a few buildings through here. So truthfully, I thought that over here we might be able to get away with having some of our educational facilities, but I'm seeing that that is less and less likely, unless we, of course, have them right here and right here, which we may have to do. The first thing that we should do, though, is adjust our terrain heights. And I figured that this would be what happened, and I'm okay with it. What's not okay with it is this bridge, and I'm not 100% sure what the fate of this bridge is anyway, but for the time being, I will just get this thing reestablished and looking at least a little bit better. And then it's just some of the same story here. I'm going to flatten out a portion of this. I think this will be where we put our high school, and then maybe we have our elementary school either over here or in the middle of a neighborhood, although there's not going to be a ton of development over here. And it's going to be interesting. I'm actually going to deprioritize everything. So it'll basically be kind of that there won't be a collector here at all, which truthfully I think is fine. It's a low density residential neighborhood. I think that we can get away with that. So I added this little local road back here. I'm going to take this down to a 1-unit road. This is where our high school will live. I think I might go with one of the European high schools. I know it's larger, but I do like the way that this one looks, so we will go with it. Sometimes you just got to let aesthetics guide you. And then I'm going to send a road back here so that we can add our parking facilities. And then I'd love to have some sports facilities here. I don't know if we're going to have enough space, but we'll give it a shot. We will extend this road down here a little ways. And if we get a small American football field, I'm happy, and we will barely get it. We'll need to adjust that terrain a little bit, but I think that's just fine. And we'll do the exact same thing with our tennis court. I think that this is basically as good as we could have hoped for. And again, the height of realism, I'm just creating new terrain here. There's a couple of reasons I'm doing this. I want to throw in a pedestrian path along here. We're going to go just freeform, no snap twos. And this is going to be, I'm basically making this path for the network multi-tool. And now we should be able to simply use the create parallel mode. And I really want to prevent the kids from falling down the cliff. That's pretty good. For the amount of space that we have, I think that this is a fairly decent campus. It is cul-de-saced, and though I don't love what I'm about to do, I think that we have to have some other way in or out. There's a bus stop right here. It's probably as good a spot as any that'll get bumped down, and then at least it adds another pedestrian connection in. So we're doing double duty, even if I don't love what's happening here. And now we are going to finish off our residential area, and we'll have our elementary school over here as well. I'm concerned about what the game is going to do to this road back here if I make a connection, but I do think that this connection would be valuable. So I'm going to make the connection, but we got to keep our eye out for this. If this starts to cause lots of traffic on this local road, we'll get rid of it. Now let's slope this to make sure that nothing's crazy. And I think we're in a pretty good spot. We've respected the topography, and it's easy to see how good your roadway networks turn out when you do that. And I think we'll go with the community school. I'm going to place this right here. Then we'll give the school its required playground. And while we're over here and thinking about it, we will give everyone the type of park that they love, a dog park. And we'll even relocate this house to make it happen. Moving on, we have a bit more space over here to contend with. And I think that what's going to make the most sense is, again, a bunch of residential, but we'll add in a park over here to continue to spread that. That's something I didn't do a great job of in the other half of the neighborhood, and I do regret that. So let's get zoning in this area, and basically wherever we have this, we can zone directly on it. We'll allow ourselves to do that. All right, so I've gone ahead and finished the zoning here. We do need some water pipes, but for the most part, we are in a good place. And the very last thing I want to do is just add a little bit of fencing here. There we go. Down here, we've got a few more to add. The one thing that we don't have is our cable car. We are going to extend the road up here. And I basically want to line up with this stop right here. We'll send this down diagonally. And I'll add a node here, and then I'm going to Control H this into place so that our heights are good there. And then I'm going to lower this down so it's not just straight up a hill. We'll go with an end of line cable car stop. And then my goal will be a very straight connection here. I don't know if this is the most realistic. I'm guessing a way to improve it would actually be to network multi-tool this thing. So I'm going to take this one and just slope down to here. And with that, I think I'm going to let this run for just a moment so we can see things fill in. Things are starting to fill in nicely here, and I'm really pleased with where we're heading. The one thing I'm not quite pleased with is our city services. As I continue to think about this, there's one major service that we have not added back into this area, and that is waste collection. Now, clearly I don't want to do what we were doing, which is just kind of throwing things over here. But I do think that having a waste transfer facility, adding one back in would make a ton of sense. So I think we could probably get away with having one over here, but the presence of this over here does mean that we probably want to hide this a little bit more, this complex. So we will add some fairly dense landscaping around here after we are done when we do the rest of our landscaping. And there we go. I think that that was really necessary to have here. Otherwise, I don't know where the closest trash facility would be, and we're going to be building even more stuff over here. So we've got to be cognizant of that. That said, I think we're good here until we add in our landscaping. So why don't we move on to building our forestry industry? In the previous section, I mentioned areas within the city that I don't like, and we're going to build in another one. This is that little industrial area that we hit the meteor in the live stream. This area is a mess. I tried to fix it with one-ways without really thinking about roadway hierarchy in any really specific way. And this is what happens when you panic. This. So right here, we've got a one-way loop. So this is basically a gigantic roundabout with a bunch of random local roads with one-ways going in and out. Just really messy, doesn't make a lot of sense. And then to try to resolve the transportation issues in this area, I added this cargo facility, which I believe is actually functioning to bring goods into the city and pump even more traffic through this area. Then we also had this passenger rail facility, which again, I thought was a good idea. It's not really serving that many people. It's very expensive for the 50 that it's serving. So we'll get rid of these facilities. And what I'm thinking is that on one side of this, we will have extractors likely over here, and then we'll have some of our processing occurring over here, but we'll keep it simple. You can see this is all zoned industry. This is not a great idea to have this much zoned industry in one location. I am going to get rid of most of the roadway network in this area. Before we get moving on this, I do want to look at the terrain heights here and make sure that this all makes sense. Remember the context of this area. There's going to be a lot of freight vehicles going on this, so we likely would want this to be something that is fairly gentle in terms of our slopes. And honestly, what I'm seeing doesn't look all that bad. There's a couple of spots, but I think we might be able to get away with this one. I'll just gentle up around there, and I think that that's honestly pretty good. And then right here, it goes up a little bit. If this were a highway, you wouldn't want that because you'd be driving up and you might not be able to see over the hill. That could be a safety concern, so we'll get rid of that as well. And I'm pretty pleased with that. I'm going to just link this up right here. This whole interchange is pretty grossly overbuilt, if we're being completely honest with ourselves, but we'll cross that bridge when the time comes. I'm going to pop in and grab some industry roads. And what I'm thinking is we'll convert a portion of this highway to be our arterial coming through here. I'm going to add extra lanes, knowing how much freeway traffic we're going to have. And then we'll make a small industrial district over here. Now, one of the things I like to think about now when I'm building an industrial area is how much space we would actually need in a place like this. So we're going to give space in between the highway and these facilities and really let ourselves have a very large district. You don't need to cram these things in. All right, I've spent a little while designing this area. It's very, very simple, and it is very, very efficient, or at least it should be. The one thing I'm not happy with is this. This cargo train terminal is one of the older ones. We will eliminate this. I was thinking about saving that, but reasonably, we've got so many great assets now, such as this new warehouse with railway connection. So we'll add that here. I'm likely going to move this back, but I wanted to see which way the rail is coming out of this. So now I'm going to go into move it, hold down Alt, and bump this back. And what that'll do is keep me in line. So now you can see I didn't break the grid. It's completely straight and I can pull this up. There we go. I think this is something that will work well in this area. So we've got a bit of a turnaround here and then we'll have a rail connection coming in. This is going to be a fairly simple connection. I don't want to get overly crazy about this because it's so easy to do. Now that we have this ready, we need to figure out what we're going to put in here. And I'm thinking that it probably makes the most sense to have paper. We have a modular house factory, which needs plain timber. We've got this food factory. This needs paper. And then we have this sneaker factory, which also needs paper. So we have two of these factories that need the paper. This rail facility is actually connected over here by this really janky bridge that we'll address at some point. But it is connected, so let's just do what makes the most sense for now. So now let's get this industry working. We're going to extend this highway here, and then I'm just going to snake this up and down. I'm going to send straight roads off from this one, so this will act as the arterial. I do not want zoning on this. It will completely ruin things. We got this to 6.9. Nice. I want tons of extracting capacity back here. And the way that we do that is to have lots and lots of access roads. Now, we're going to need more trees here if we want to really boost up our resource availability here. And now we should be able to round things out by creating a forestry industry right here. We'll need to place our main building. And then from there, we just need to place a bunch of our tree plantations. So I want to place large ones where I can. And then where I can't fit anything else, I will add in some of the small ones. And now, so this gets producing right away, I'm going to add a bunch of water pipes. We also need some storage. I didn't even contemplate that at all. So I'll be upfront and say that in Cities Skylines 2, I've been wondering why there are water pipes built into the dirt roads, and this makes me realize why. Because it doesn't make any sense to have to put these underneath here, and for the buildings to function the way they want them to function with consistency, have to have them. So kind of a strange situation, but it kind of makes sense when you think about it. All right, let's add a couple of storage facilities to this. And I just want to get the size of this log yard. And I think I can replace a few of these small plantations that we placed with log yards, and then we'll have some other ones across the highway as well. So I'm not overly concerned. And now I want to make sure that this looks consistent. So I'm going for the MP9 inside of Bob. So I want to use the exact same one so that I can fill in the gaps with the exact same tree. And it didn't take very much to cover this entire area. And now it's just as simple as grabbing some of those trees and filling them in. And the MP9s are these live oaks that we received with the free update to the airport's DLC. And I'm just going to make a little area where we have some of these trees. And then once again, marquee selection these things and kind of spam them in. And I want to taper it back from the forestry industry just so we don't have those sharp edges. And I get it, we didn't have to do this, but I did want it to feel like a very large industrial area, and I feel like this accomplishes it. While we're over here, I am going to simplify this interchange. The more I look at this, the more I realize it probably just needs to be rebuilt. This isn't a challenging one. The one thing that I keep thinking is we're sending the highway underground. That's the expensive corridor, when we could probably just bridge over this with our local road, and that would make a ton more sense. And this should do the trick. I'm not going to go crazy on this anymore. I'm just going to leave this as is. And if we need to increase capacity, we can do it in the future. That's how this stuff happens in the real world anyway. And now we need to have some of our processing. So I'll place some lumber storage over near where some of our factories are going to be. And I want to use some larger factories. So we'll go with this engineered wood plant. And then over here, I'm going to place a few pulp mills. And near the pulp mills, I'm going to place some wood chip storage. And then I wanted to leave space because I want there to be some parking as well. And then these other spaces are going to be for warehousing. And now for these factories, we need to have a place to store all of the things that they're producing. So we have paper over here. We've got our engineered wood plant. So we need warehousing for both of those. And what we have here are 3 of these kind of outdoor storage areas. Here's where we're going to put all of our plain timber. And then here we're going to have our paper. And I think we'll add one more of these paper storage areas over here. Although part of me actually wants to put one of these larger storage areas. And we'll turn this entire area into a real powerhouse of paper making. And the last thing I want to do is steal some of our forestry industry over here to make it seem like this has kind of extended over the highway as well. And I think we'll save the rest for the landscaping and detailing section, but you can see that this really fills things in quite a bit. And then we'll fix our utility access to this area and we should be good. Now you might be wondering why there's so many gaps in this area and if that makes any sense. And I think that it does. These areas might purchase this for future expansion, or we might have some need for some stormwater facility, which is kind of the other thing that we're missing in this area. And in fact, I think that I very well may go ahead and add that right off the bat. And while we're at it, I'm going to add in a couple of recreational facilities through here. This could be places where maybe if you're an employee of this area, you can go for a walk on your lunch break. Okay, and this is pretty good for now. I really like the way that this has turned out. I think that it would be an interesting area to work. The one thing I am curious about is what this industry actually looks like. We also don't have any workers barracks in here. That's something that we could certainly add, but I might hold off on that as we add another mod into the build down the line. And obviously we're outputting a lot as just raw forestry products, but I think that we're doing okay. Let's definitely improve logistics, and I'm going to hold off on worker safety because I'm not sure what our budget's doing. So I think that this is pretty good, and we can see that things over here have materials now. So we're in a pretty good place there. And now that we have this little area done for now, why don't we move on to that tourism industry? And now for the final challenge, this area right here, which is probably the area of the city I dislike the most. So we have a whole bunch of stuff going on here. We have an IT cluster, we have a little leisure district, and then tourism, which is why we have all of these really tall towers. I think we need to preserve at least the intent for this area insofar as we ensure that we have a lot of water access, and we use some of the same roadway assets through this area. I'm going to steal the assets that we have over here and just kind of drop them over here using picker. And I'm doing that because my intention is to just basically get rid of all of this. It's insane. Boy, oh boy, you can see what I did here. I completely disrespected the terrain and created my own flat area. We've got to do better than this. But before we do that, I want to look at this road right here. This is a tram line, and I'm concerned that it is way steeper than maybe I intended for it to be. And yeah, we're... Do you see this? We've got a 46.6% grade. That is madness. And I think if I adjust this 20, and we got a car tornado. Love those. That's not going to work. So I'm going to eliminate this for the time being. I think during one of these episodes, we are going to just need to spend some time finding new and maybe better ways up some of the sides of these cliffs. Otherwise, just really beef up our highway connections and have additional cable car connections, which I think we'll do here anyway. We'll add some cable cars. Now, I almost eliminated this building, which is a taxi depot. That is not an appropriate location for the taxi depot, so we'll get rid of that. There we go. That was not the perfect solution, and I need to figure out what the deal is with this power line, but for the time being, I think that that is as good a solution as we're going to get. I'm also going to get rid of this crazy windmill that we have right here, the wind turbine. That doesn't make sense. So now that we've done that, we have a much simpler situation over here. And wow, everything is just a little bit off. I'm going to adjust this after we figure out our slopes here. And what I'm thinking is I want to get this very close to the river, so close that we can actually activate the waterfront, but I also want to make sure that we're not going to flood this area out. So I'm going to try to go maybe 2 contour lines above the water, and then we'll get this real big. And it looks like we've got to go just a bit higher. And as you can tell, this is actually pretty darn good right here. And if it's funny, it actually looks like my original height worked out okay as well. So it's not okay. So the river is really, really fast. So maybe if I create some sort of a minor berm right here, maybe this is actually even where our road comes in. We can get away with one. Okay, I think this is what we're working with. There are obviously some things we have to adjust. We've got boats going over our newly created beach, and our roads are really not in the right spot, but this has the bones to be exactly what we want it to be. So I'm going to begin by focusing on the roads to get in here, and I really want to have our harbor over here. I'm going to bump this out a little ways and add a quay wall, something I didn't do last time by the harbor, oddly enough. Then I'm going to hop in the node controller and square up these edges. To me, this just looks a ton better. I love the quay walls, but I really dislike that they have the rounded edges. It just feels very unnatural to me. So this is a way for me to anyway feel much better about this. And now we need to make our roads make sense coming into here. So we're going to use our slope terrain tool. We'll have a decent strength for our brush, but a really moderate size. Right mouse click at the top height. And then where we want to come in is probably right about here. So let's actually flatten this out first. And then we'll slope right up into it. There we go. The idea here is that this is where we will convert from our highway to our local road. So I am going to have some sort of a parking facility right here. We'll go for one of these new structures. And the idea with this is that folks could decide that they want to park here and get on a boat. So if they're going out of town, they might want to drive to this. For now, I'm going to begin the build with this road with a wide sidewalk. We'll turn our contours on, and I'm going to draw a couple of segments. And these will basically flank the edge of the build. So this is once again using our create connection mode like we did in the previous episode. And I really only care about adjusting one side of this. This other one is not quite as important to me, but this allows me to hug the terrain lines, which is what I do care about, and set that radius to be what I want it to be. I just wanted to see, I set this back to terrain heights. I just wanted to see how big of a dip this actually was. And in my opinion, it's not that bad. If we wanted to fix these a little bit, I think that's fine. This will raise it up and now we'll have a consistent 5.4% grade, completely fine. Let's run this up this way. And then we need to fix this highway. And we'll start with that. I'm not 100% sure where this will end, probably right here. In fact, let's just formalize it. And then I will slope this. I have a feeling this will pull it up. And because of that, I'm not going to be overly concerned about all the craziness that was happening over here. Now I want to add a quay wall along here. And this is where we're going to have our main shopping district. I want to go with something decorative. So we'll go with this simple seawall right here. Now I need to let this rest and adjust. And I really want to get a feel for whether or not this is actually a thing where we have water just kind of indiscriminately spilling over every now and then, or if this is just a now thing. And I think it might be a forever thing if I don't adjust this. And I think by just pulling that quay wall back here, I should be okay. Obviously, there's some janky looking stuff right here. We can resolve that with landscaping or even attempting to just pull our terrains over. But I'm a lot less concerned about this than I am flooding. So we're going to live. Along here, I want to bring back some of the vibe that we had before. So I'm going to grab this wooden boardwalk and we're going to mirror this with our parallel road tool. So this is totally unnecessary, but I think it's going to look nice. Just a little something different. And this also allows zoning against it. So we should now be able to place some of our assets right against this. And that is important because we're going to parallel that with this facility. So I want to do this one manually. This is the general layout for this area. We are going to need to find a road connection across, but I don't know that I want it to come straight through the heart of this, which is what we were doing before, unless it's right here. And perhaps actually that is where we will make that connection. But if we do that, what we've got to do is really start this kind of aggressively. And this actually turned out really, really well. So we're looking at a 2.8% grade coming up here. We still have some space underneath this. Maybe not as much as I would like. The grade here, 12%. Maybe that's not ideal, but we can improve it like that. Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with how this is turning out. So let's start placing some of our leisure buildings. We'll go into find it and narrow it by leisure buildings. And I'm going to search for buildings of a variety of sizes. I'm going to start out with some large ones first, which is one. We have one large building. And now that we have this little district done, which is going to be kind of the entertainment hub of this area, we're going to add some shopping as well. So to do this, I'm going to hit the extra filters panel, go to required DLC, because I really want to use our shopping malls assets. Now we can get a good look at this and see how it turned out and modify some of the assets as needed. But generally, I think that this creates a very unique pedestrian environment. And really, in this kind of area, that's really what you want to see. And now I do actually want to look at After Dark. There are a lot of interesting assets in there, particularly some of these terraces. I think that we might be able to use some of these to basically act as a rear of some of these places. And I think that it's going to work out really nicely for us. There we go. I've spent way too much time on this little district, but I really wanted this to be an important place here, and the landscaping is really going to make this come to life. We've spent so much time here because we're going to add some hotels behind it, and I want to make sure this really functions well. So we'll start out with some budget hotels, and these require a little bit of everything. We don't have any offices here yet or any parks, so we'll need to add some of those as well. And right away, we can see that it needs some sightseeing and some offices. But once we have that, we should be good to go. Let's place a few offices. So we've added these back here, which is completely maxed out our office need, at least for most of them. It looks like we're a little low over here. All we need now are some parks. So I'll just place down a number of these restaurants. Now, these all have trees coming out the back of them, which I don't love. So we are going to need to make room for them. Easy enough. Since we're plopping so much of this, we can just drag the road and get everything to fit. And then earlier I mentioned that I wanted to maintain some of these things that access the water. And you know, it's funny. We got this to be low enough, but the water is so fierce coming down here that the only place we could actually put these is way over here. I am going to place at least one, but these are not going to work as well as I had hoped that they would. And I think that we just need to be okay with that to a certain extent. That's pretty good. They're as low to the ground as they're going to be. Obviously, not ideal to have the boats in that kind of a current, but I don't know that we can do much better. I'm guessing that all of this parking is actually coming from people that are trying to go up the hill. Oh, I hate that. We're going to take a quick detour to resolve this. And then to really take this up to the next level, I'm actually going to go through and disable parking on half of these. So I got rid of all the parking along here, with the exception of this. We'll give them some. And then over here, you're starting to see cars piling up too. And I think that that is completely fine. I think at a tourist area like this, you'd expect to see a bit of that. Now, for the rest of this, we have to see where we're at with our hotels. And we're at level 2 now. And our hotels are incredibly popular. And now we're starting to get to some of the stuff that I actually want to place, like our small hotel. and then our old inn. And I'm going to place a few of these old inns, which might seem kind of strange, but we'll think of this as kind of a resort complex. And these need sightseeing and shopping, so we will add in some more of our shopping malls content creator pack assets. I'm going to just randomize these using my question mark. And now that one of the end is thrilled, these other ones are okay as well. Maybe some more sightseeing stuff would help. And for that, we'll give all the visitors a dog park and maybe even some farmers markets or something of that nature right along the back here. I could see that being an attraction. Actually, we'll go for this tourist park, which I think is going to fit really well. We can place two of them side by side and then maybe even center them. Whoa! It clearly did not love that, but I could pull this back. And now we've got some tourist shops. Yeah, that is pretty great. And I grabbed this other park. I'm going to pull this elsewhere. Maybe this will be our capstone here. And now for the rest of this, I've decided to zone some assets in just some general commercial places that people could come and shop. And there we go. That should be a pretty good solution for this area, though we should mirror some of our connections that we're making here. And again, sometimes you just really want to control the zoning. And for these side streets, that's something I'm doing. I'm going through and disabling zoning using our new zoning toggle. And the net result is streets that are more logical, that make some more sense. Now, I am very curious. I want to add some of our larger hotels, but I'm really bound by our profit. And to get to our next level, it's really all about our weekly profit. And we're not quite there yet. So I'm going to crank this up.
2,000 years later.
And we've finally reached level 3, which is, I think, probably where we're going to end at on this. And I really just want to get our city hotels in here. These are some of our nicer looking hotels. And across this beach, I think would be a great place for a number of these. And I love that these have different variations. We'll go with something like that. Well, actually, I really don't like that. It's really tall on the one side, but that's probably okay. And this directs what we need to zone here as well, and it's shopping. We finish off with shopping, and we should be fine. So I've added commercial all up and down here. This is still unhappy. Some of these are more happy than others, but we don't have any sightseeing basically right here. So that'll be the very last thing that we add. And this gets most of these maxed out. This one's still mad, and there's not much that I can do to make it happy. But in general, I think that this generally just looks a ton better than what we had before. So I am very pleased with this. There's one last thing I want to do here, and we've really started to lean into our cable cars, and I feel like we have to do that here as well. So I'm going to, I guess, get rid of these, and then we'll add a cable car from our airport down to these hotels. So that is Bluffside Crossing. Let's turn on our contours, and we will add this. And that right there was not the height of realism, but it made me happy. And I think that these are going to be really successful cable car stops as far as they go. So if we are really leaning into this, this is how we do it. And I'm all about this. And I want to know how you guys feel about all the cable cars that we are adding. At the very end of the episode, we will check our ridership, but I think it's going to be quite outstanding. Now, with our cable car in place, I think we have one more thing to do, and that is add a bit of landscaping to the build. When you think about how far we've come today, it's kind of wild. We are going to basically get rid of all of the landscaping throughout this area and replace it. We'll fix some of the grades as we need to. You can see that there are a couple of spots like this where we just got to hit it. Now that we've removed most of the trees over in the other part of the build, I am going to grab just a pretty normal looking square of trees over here using Move It. And this is what we will basically use as our ground cover. That was a lot of landscaping. And initially I decided to try to go super detailed, but I think when you have this much to do, sometimes it's in your best interest to find little ways to cheat, like grabbing this and adding a bit of forest behind here, adding some fences but not closing off the backs. Those are the kinds of things that you can do that won't really have an impact on the visual effect, but will certainly save you some time. And truthfully, I really like the way that this looks. And with that, there's only one more thing left to do, and that's take inventory of what we've done with a brief city tour. Boy, oh boy, did we get a lot done today. And it's probably more than we should have done, but truthfully, I just want to make sure that we get every single part of this build where it should be, and this has made a huge difference. But there's one last thing I want to do, and that is see how our cable cars are doing. We've eliminated so much of our transportation network. We're really dependent upon these things. So let's take a look. 112 going up to the airport and 720 using this one going up to downtown, which is pretty outstanding. Up top, 780, and over here, 154. So really, this is a very important connection. It's really the lifeblood of our city. If we take a look at our traffic, 76%, which is slightly better than before. A little bit surprising. I'm not sure if that was because we fixed up this area down here or what the case may be, but it seems like we are starting to improve. And I think that this is where we leave it. I really enjoyed this one today, and I hope that you have as well. If you did, please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. And I just really want to thank you for your time. Appreciate you being here with me. Can't wait to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.